There's a whole industry set up in Donbass to remotely kill civilians. It has its own technology, its own logistics, and what's probably the most shocking, it receives daily support from the West. 26 witnesses from Konstantinovka describe the same thing, or rather a very similar situation in every detail. An operator is sitting in a hideout, often in a high-rise building outside the town. On his tablet screen, he spots civilians, a woman carrying water, an elderly man who's just gone out for some fresh air, a bread seller standing by his van, or a couple on a motorbike. He selects a target and aims his FPV. If he misses, he launches another one. Svetlana Rostovskaya, who used to work for the Housing and Communal Services Department in Konstantinovka, puts it more accurately than any expert, I think. Here is what she said. For Ukrainians, it's like a video game. They play and kill. The words are simple, without any particular vocabulary, but they accurately reflect the situation. The testimonies share a detail that is repeated verbatim by several witnesses. Following a successful strike, a so-called successful strike, the operators laugh as they walk to fetch their drones. This is a fundamentally new aspect of the crime. The operator does not need to look the victim in the eye. There is no need to overcome psychological barriers. He kills the person on the screen and believes that the screen distances him from the consequences, while the game interface turns the killing into nothing more than entertainment. This technology has another characteristic. It is scaling up and being used more and more extensively, spreading far and wide. In accounts from various witnesses, we often hear a word to which they keep returning, the word hunt. Hunting down people who had ventured out to get some water or fresh air, or those trying to evacuate towards Russian troops. Hunting down shopkeepers who were delivering food. They were simply killed methodically in order to deprive the residents of food and force them to leave. Alexander Krupko, who lost his wife, his daughter, his son-in-law, and those closest to him, puts it succinctly. The Ukrainian crimes were indiscriminate. The report includes a separate section entitled, Ukrainian Punitive Forces Work with Children. The word work is put in quotation marks here. Witnesses say that the Ukrainian police visited families who had refused to evacuate and threatened to strip them of their parental rights. Alexander Yakovlev describes it as follows. This is also a direct quote. They had been tasked with taking all the children away, without exception. Families were hiding their children from their own authorities. In this context, I would like to draw attention to international law. The Fourth Geneva Convention, Article 49, expressly prohibits the forcible displacement of the civilian population, including under the guise of evacuation. At source. In addition to all this, the phrases that the witnesses heard directed at them, repeated like a refrain. They heard it countless times in various forms. You are not human, so we're allowed to kill you. You know, in one context or another, we hear this from Westerners. We heard it while sitting at the negotiating table when we asked the question, why then, do you do the very things you accuse others of? To which they replied to us directly, sitting there and looking Sergei Lavrov right in the eye, because it's allowed for them, but not for others. For 8 years, Kiev's propaganda has been instilling in its own people, well, they were considered citizens back then, the idea that Donbass residents are not Ukrainians, not Europeans, and not even human beings at all. The provisions stipulate that non-combatants must be treated humanely. What are we actually seeing? On June 25th, Ukrainian armed forces militants deliberately set fire to the church in Konstantinovka, where civilians were seeking refuge from the shelling at that very moment. Eyewitnesses also report that Ukrainian militants deliberately fired on volunteers who were delivering humanitarian aid to the residents. This is essentially genocide.